Brace yourselves. What you thought you knew about 1923 is about to be turned upside down. Episode 5 promises more twists, more betrayals, and more heartbreak than ever before. The stakes are higher, the tension more unbearable, and the Duttons? They're facing a storm that could change everything. In this exclusive look at what's coming next, you'll see the first real glimpse into the chaos ahead. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Things are about to get brutal. As we enter episode 5 of 1923, the stakes for the Duttons have never been higher. Spencer's journey, which was once defined by his escape from the mafia and his desperate search for a life beyond the violence, is about to collide with forces he never expected. The tension is thick in the air as the threat of Banner and Donald's evil plans continues to loom over them. Spencer may have survived one battle, but the real war is just beginning. In this episode, Banner's ambitions for the Duttonland have taken a darker turn. His once conflicted soul has been replaced by pure ambition, and in his eyes, the Duttons are nothing but obstacles standing in the way of his power. We see him making alliances that will come at the cost of everything the Dutton family has worked for. And with Donald pulling the strings from the shadows, Banner becomes even more dangerous, driven by a maniacal desire to take control of the land he believes is his by right. But what is truly terrifying is how well Donald plays the game. He's a master manipulator, and this episode gives us a chilling look at just how far he's willing to go. The moment he guarantees massive returns to investors, you can almost feel the weight of his words. Because in this world, money equals power, and Donald knows it better than anyone. He's selling the dream of wealth, but at what cost? His offer seems too good to be true, and in the Dutton world, it most certainly is. The question becomes, will anyone in this world be able to stop him, or will they all be swallowed by his greed and ambition? Meanwhile, Spencer is no stranger to conflict, but his latest struggle might be his most personal yet. With the telegraph he sent to Montana finally in the hands of the wrong people, Banner is about to make a move that could bring Spencer's world crashing down. Spencer's reputation precedes him, and once Banner learns the truth about who Spencer really is, he'll stop at nothing to eliminate the threat. But it's not just Spencer's life at risk. His journey, his love for Alexandra, and their unborn child could all be torn apart by the cruel machinations of those who seek to destroy them. As Spencer faces this looming danger, we get another heart-wrenching look at Alexandra's suffering. She's lost everything, her dignity, her wealth, her status, but her love for Spencer keeps her pushing forward. The stark reality of what she's enduring is unbearable to watch. Once a duchess, now a woman stripped of everything, she's facing the harshest consequences of her choices. Her journey is no longer about love, it's about survival. Alexandra's situation only worsens as the episode unfolds. With nothing left to lose, she finds herself in the hands of ruthless strangers, and her worst fears become a reality. It's a brutal reminder of how much she sacrificed for love, and how little she truly understood the cost. The question is, can she survive long enough to be reunited with Spencer, or will she be lost to the cruel world she's found herself in? Back in Montana, things aren't much better. The Dutton Ranch is under threat as Banner's plans move forward. The Duttons, once a proud and powerful family, are now faced with losing everything. Elizabeth, who has been a rock for the family, finds herself in a difficult position as well. Pregnant and vulnerable, she must navigate the treacherous waters of the ranch's political and emotional upheavals. The arrival of another child is supposed to be a sign of hope, but for the Duttons, it's a constant reminder of everything they stand to lose. As we move toward the end of this episode, we begin to see cracks form in the Dutton family's foundation. Each character is battling their demons, but in a world where survival often means betrayal, can they trust each other? Or will the price of loyalty be too high? The forces at play in episode 5 are relentless, and no one, not even the Duttons, will be spared from the fallout. The suspense is unbearable, the stakes higher than ever before. With the Duttons' survival at risk, will Spencer's past finally catch up to him? Will Banner's thirst for power destroy everything the Duttons hold dear? And will Alexandra's journey end in heartbreak or redemption? One thing is certain, episode 5 will leave you on the edge of your seat, desperate for the next chapter. As episode 5 kicks into full gear, we're thrown headfirst into the relentless pressure building on the Duttons. The episode doesn't waste any time in showing just how far gone things are for the family, as Spencer, Alexandra, and the rest of the crew face challenges that may be too much to overcome. As if surviving the mafia and endless danger weren't enough, the Duttons now find themselves entangled in a far-reaching conspiracy that threatens to destroy them from every angle. There's no more running. The battle lines are drawn, and Episode 5 will reveal just how deadly the consequences of this war will be. Spencer's situation grows dire as he learns the full scope of Banner's plan to take the land. Banner's insatiable desire to own the Dutton Ranch, to bend it to his will, is no longer just a casual ambition. It's become an obsession. What's terrifying about Banner is that he isn't acting on pure malice alone. There's a twisted logic behind his pursuit. He believes that with the Duttons out of the way, he can build something far greater than they ever dreamed. But in doing so, he underestimates just how far Spencer is willing to go to protect what is rightfully his. Spencer's connection to the land and his family is undeniable. No matter how much Banner tries to threaten him, Spencer will not give up without a fight. But this fight will be different. The battle for the Dutton land will force Spencer to confront parts of himself he never thought he would have to. It's clear from the start of this episode that Spencer's back is against the wall. He knows that Banner's reach is growing, and he's running out of options. In this episode, we see Spencer face one of his greatest fears, that he may not be able to protect the woman he loves or their unborn child. The stakes for Spencer have always been high, but they've never been as personal as they are now. As he learns more about the full extent of Banner's plans, he realizes that there's no way to stop the impending chaos unless he takes matters into his own hands. But how can one man stand against an army of corrupt forces? And with Alexandra's fate hanging in the balance, will Spencer make the ultimate sacrifice to save the people he loves? As Spencer grapples with this looming threat, we also see a powerful shift in the character of Banner. This episode dives deep into his psyche, showing us the complexity of his character. He's not just a villain for the sake of being evil. Banner has his own twisted code, and we begin to understand why he feels entitled to what the Duttons have built. The more we learn about his backstory, the more we see that he's not some mindless villain. He's a man driven by a mix of ambition, insecurity, and a desire for control. But no matter how much we understand him, it doesn't excuse the fact that Banner is an incredibly dangerous adversary, and his plans to take the Duttons down are more calculated than ever. The biggest shock in this episode is the way Donald's influence spreads, turning people like Banner into pawns in his greater scheme. It's chilling how Donald manipulates the weak and power-hungry, convincing them that their goals align with his own. Donald isn't just looking for more power, he's looking to destroy anyone who stands in his way, and the Duttons are at the top of that list. We begin to see just how far his reach extends, and his ability to pull strings from the shadows makes him an even more formidable opponent. As we watch Donald in action, it becomes clear that he's not just trying to take land or money, he's trying to reshape everything. The Duttons' way of life is under attack, and Donald plans to leave them broken, scattered, and powerless. Meanwhile, across the country, Alexandra's suffering takes a dark and unexpected turn. Her world has been shattered, and she's left with nothing to cling to but the faint hope that Spencer will come to her rescue. But as this episode unfolds, we see the grim reality of what she's facing. No longer living in the lap of luxury, Alexandra must confront the brutal and harsh truths of survival in a world that's growing more unforgiving by the minute. Her innocence is gone, replaced by the cold, hard necessity of fighting for her life. Her connection to Spencer is the only thing keeping her going, but the longer she endures, the more she begins to question if it's worth the cost. The pain of watching her endure humiliation and loss is gut-wrenching, but it also sets the stage for one of the most emotional confrontations we'll see yet. Can she hold on long enough for Spencer to find her, or will the forces around her break her spirit completely? Back at the Dutton Ranch, the family's situation is growing increasingly perilous. While Elizabeth tries to hold things together, her pregnancy only adds to the weight of the situation. The ranch is no longer a sanctuary, it's a war zone, and every day brings new threats. The episode takes us deeper into the family's desperation, showing us how even those who are supposed to be the strong foundation of the Dutton legacy are starting to crack under the pressure. We see Elizabeth and others preparing for what could be the final stand to protect their land, their legacy, and their lives. But can they succeed? Will the Duttons fight back, or will they be crushed by the overwhelming force coming for them? As Episode 5 unfolds, the tension is unbearable and every character is forced to make a choice. Will they continue to fight for what they love, or will they surrender to the inevitable? With so many lives at stake, there's no telling who will survive and who will fall. But one thing is certain: the path ahead is filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and the ultimate question: who will win this brutal game of survival? Episode 5 sets the stage for an explosive showdown, and it's clear that no one, not even the Duttonans, will be spared from the fallout. As the tension in Episode 5 escalates, the pressure on Spencer intensifies to an unimaginable degree. The walls are closing in, and with every move he makes, the Duttons are pushed closer to the edge. The once seemingly invincible Spencer, the man who had so desperately wanted to escape the violence of the past, is now trapped in a web of betrayal, manipulation, and the harsh reality of the world around him. The stakes are more personal than ever before. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about love, loyalty, and family. Spencer's role in this episode becomes even more central as he makes the choice to go head-to-head with the very people who wish to destroy everything he holds dear. In this episode, Spencer's character undergoes a transformation. We see the man who once feared confrontation and shied away from the violence of the world, now stepping into a more aggressive, darker version of himself. The man he was before is fading away as Spencer realizes that he can no longer run from the storm. The battle for the Dutton legacy has become his personal war, and he's not willing to stand by while the life he's fought for is destroyed. His journey, once defined by escape, is now defined by the necessity of fighting for the ones he loves. The clash with Banner and Donald seems inevitable, and it will be a battle that could cost Spencer everything. But his drive to protect Alexandra and their unborn child forces him to take a stand in ways he never expected. What makes Spencer's transformation all the more poignant is his connection to Alexandra. Their love, which was once a source of hope and joy, now feels like a distant memory as the harsh realities of life in this unforgiving world take over. But even though Spencer is forced into this new, darker role, his motivation is still clear: Alexandra. In this episode, we see Spencer push his limits, and his every action is driven by the need to keep his promise to her. The weight of their relationship becomes a symbol of everything the Duttons are fighting for. Their love is a beacon in the middle of a world that has gone completely dark. Alexandra's struggle continues to unravel in the most painful of ways. In Episode 5, her situation worsens beyond anything we could have imagined. Her strength, which had been unwavering up until now, is tested to its absolute breaking point. She's no longer just a woman in love. She's a woman surviving, doing everything she can to hold on to the faint hope that Spencer will find her and save her from this nightmare. But with every passing moment, the odds seem more and more impossible. The brutality of the world she's found herself in forces her to make choices she never thought she would, and we see a side of her that is raw and unfiltered. Alexandra is forced to confront the reality of the price she's paid for her love and her dreams. The woman who once looked at the world with excitement now sees it through a lens of fear and desperation. What's so gut-wrenching about Alexandra's arc is how much she still holds on to the idea of Spencer. And yet, she begins to question whether she can truly survive this journey. She's lost so much already: her wealth, her status, her dignity, and now her survival is at risk. We see her forced to make impossible decisions in order to stay alive. The darkness of the world around her seems to close in with every step she takes, and her future is anything but certain. But even in the depths of her suffering, she remains connected to Spencer in the most powerful way. She never gives up on him, even though she's lost everything. The love between them is undeniable, and it serves as the driving force behind her survival. But will love be enough to save her? Or will the brutal world she's in prove to be too much? Meanwhile, Banner's scheme is moving forward full force, and his connection to Donald only makes him more dangerous. With Banner fully aligned with Donald's mission to destroy the Duttons, he becomes an even more menacing force. We see a side of him that we haven't seen before. His ruthless desire to claim what he believes is rightfully his blinds him to everything else. His alliances, formed in desperation, are about to lead to a violent escalation. There's no turning back for Banner now. In Episode 5, he crosses the point of no return, and his character is consumed by his ambition. What's even more disturbing is how he manipulates those around him to get what he wants. including his wife. The lengths he's willing to go to for control are terrifying, and we begin to see just how far he's willing to sacrifice his humanity for power. Donald, as always, plays the game with sinister precision. He's the shadow behind every move, manipulating people like Banner to get closer to his ultimate goal, destroying the Duttons. As he continues to make promises of wealth and power, the people who follow him become pawns in his greater game. His plans grow more devious, and with each passing moment, the Duttons' chances of survival seem to slip further away. But Donald's overconfidence may be his downfall. He underestimates the Duttons, especially Spencer. In this episode, we see glimpses of what may be his downfall, his over-reliance on manipulation. The Duttons have fought against worse before, and their strength, especially Spencer's, may be what ultimately turns the tide. Back at the Dutton Ranch, Elizabeth's role becomes more critical than ever. Her pregnancy is a symbol of hope, but it's also a reminder of the immense risks they face. As tensions rise, Elizabeth must navigate the uncertain waters of family loyalty and self-preservation. She's already seen too much loss, and now, with her child on the way, she must figure out how to protect her family and the legacy of the Duttons. The pressure on her to stand by her family is overwhelming, and in this episode, we see her transform into a warrior. She's no longer just the wife of the ranch, she's a protector, someone who will fight tooth and nail to ensure the survival of her family. As we move through episode 5, the looming showdown between the Duttons and their enemies becomes inevitable. Every character, from Spencer to Elizabeth, Banner to Donald, is walking a tightrope, and with every choice, the stakes get higher. With betrayal in the air and alliances shifting, no one is safe, and the world of 1923 is about to erupt in ways we never saw coming. What will it take for the Duttons to survive, and who will be left standing in the ashes of this battle? As episode 5 unfolds, the emotional stakes continue to rise, and we are forced to reckon with the devastating consequences of the choices the characters have made. In the unforgiving world of 1923, no one is safe, and the shifting tides of fortune feel almost unbearable. Spencer's path becomes more perilous with every passing moment, and his struggle to protect Alexandra from the forces closing in around them will set the stage for some of the most intense and emotional moments in the series. The episode explores the growing tension between Spencer and Banner as their conflict becomes a full-fledged battle of wills. Banner, who had initially been a secondary antagonist, now emerges as one of the most formidable threats the Duttons have ever faced. He isn't just interested in land. He's determined to dismantle everything the Duttons have worked for. Banner's manipulations become sharper, and his willingness to do anything necessary to achieve his goals makes him even more dangerous. In this episode, we see a more sinister side of him. He's not just acting out of greed. There's a deep resentment and bitterness that fuels his actions. Banner feels entitled to the Dutton land, believing that his vision for the future is far superior to theirs. His cold and calculating nature makes him a terrifying adversary, and Spencer is forced to confront this head-on. But Spencer isn't just fighting against Banner's ruthless ambition, he's fighting against a system that has always been stacked against him. The old world of the Duttons, once filled with tradition and strength, is being crushed under the weight of modern forces that care little for the values that once defined it. As Spencer becomes more entrenched in this battle, we see him grow increasingly desperate to find a way to save Alexandra and their future. The choice to fight for her, to protect her at all costs, becomes an overwhelming burden. The stakes for Spencer have never been higher. He's not just battling for survival anymore, he's fighting for a chance at happiness, a life free from the violence and heartbreak that has defined the Dutton legacy. But as we learn in this episode, the cost of winning this fight could be much higher than Spencer ever anticipated. Meanwhile, Alexandra's struggle continues to unfold in tragic and unpredictable ways. As she faces the harsh realities of her journey, we see her forced into situations that would break even the strongest of characters. Her resilience, once a source of hope, is tested to its limits as she must make choices that could forever change the course of her life. The vulnerability she experiences is painful to watch. Having fallen from the heights of her privileged life, Alexandra now finds herself stripped of everything: her wealth, her status, and most importantly, her sense of self. In episode 5, she's faced with the most brutal challenge yet: survive long enough to be reunited with Spencer. The emotional toll it takes on her is impossible to ignore, and the way she carries this burden is nothing short of heartbreaking. The love between her and Spencer remains her beacon of hope, but that hope is quickly fading as her situation grows more dire with each passing day. Alexandra's journey in this episode serves as a stark reminder of the brutal realities of the time and the high cost of following love in such a dangerous world. The stakes are impossibly high for her, and as the story unfolds, the audience is forced to reckon with the reality that, in 1923, not everyone gets a happy ending. Alexandra's journey may not have the same optimism it once did, and as we watch her character deteriorate under the weight of these impossible circumstances, we wonder whether she'll ever see the light at the end of this brutal tunnel. The emotional punch of this subplot hits harder than ever, as we realize that even true love may not be enough to shield her from the horrors of the world she's now trapped in. Back at the Dutton Ranch, we shift focus to the other characters who have been swept up in the chaos. Elizabeth, who has already experienced so much heartache, now faces a new challenge: her pregnancy. The weight of the ranch, her family, and the imminent threat of violence puts her in a constant state of tension. But there's also a shift in her character. She's no longer just the passive observer. She's becoming a warrior in her own right. Elizabeth's resilience is becoming more apparent as she steps up to protect her family. Her connection to the land, to the Dutton legacy, is growing stronger, and it's clear she won't back down without a fight. Elizabeth is becoming a symbol of strength, and her role in this episode emphasizes that the Duttons are far from finished. While Spencer may be miles away, the family he's trying to protect is preparing for war. But with every step toward resilience, the Duttons face increasing dangers. As tensions escalate, we see the ranch becoming a battlefield. Elizabeth's preparation for the defense of the family isn't just about physical protection. It's about maintaining the strength and unity that has defined the Duttons for generations. She's no longer merely holding the fort. She's taking charge, preparing for the inevitable conflict that looms on the horizon. This episode dives deeper into the power dynamics at play within the Dutton family. As Spencer continues his fight against forces much larger than himself, the entire Dutton family will need to come together to defend their home. The Dutton Ranch may be the heart of their legacy, but as Donald and Banner continue to tighten their grip on the family's future, it's clear that nothing is guaranteed. The bonds between family members are tested, but they also strengthen. Every choice made now will have lasting consequences, and the choices Elizabeth, Jack, and the others make will determine whether the Duttons can hold on to their way of life or whether they will be crushed under the weight of modern forces that no longer value what the Duttons represent. The tension in Episode 5 reaches a fever pitch as Spencer and his allies make one final stand against the rising tide of destruction. Banner's plans grow ever more elaborate, and his hold on those around him becomes stronger. But Spencer is not one to be easily defeated. As the episode progresses, we are left wondering, will Spencer be able to rally in time to save Alexandra? And can the Duttons survive this new war? With every moment, the stakes grow higher. One thing is certain: Episode 5 will leave viewers on the edge of their seats, anticipating the devastating fallout of this war that is just beginning.